Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Julie Mann, and I show men and women how they can live healthy, happy, sustainable lives. And today I'm joined by Connie Whitman. Hi, Connie.
Hello, Julie. How are you? So excited to be here.
I'm really excited to have you. For those of you that don't know Connie yet, she is multi-talented. She is a speaker, a best-selling author. She's a radio host. She's also a coach. I mean, what you don't do. I mean, what don't you do?
I don't know. I don't sleep.
You love what you do, isn't it?
I do. So I truly do.
I met Connie on a networking meeting. So she was actually the guest speaker, and I was totally blown away because she had this incredible attitude, this great sense of fun. She offered enormous value, and I just blown away. So I just thought, come and tell people about what you're doing. So before we start with all of that, and really your expertise in sales, which I really want to pick your brains about, let's start with your roots. Take us back to your roots. How was life growing up?
You know, it's so funny. You know, everybody out there today that's in the marketing, digital marketing, digital products, that kind of space, because everything has gone digital, especially because of COVID. But even before that, I feel like they all have this tragic story, Julie. And it's like, from that rags to riches. And I look back and I think, wow, I must have really had some boring life because, and I say that tongue in cheek, but it's kind of the truth. My dad is an immigrant from Italy. And so I'm first generation American. I'm in New Jersey in the United States. And so I think I have a lot of that, of his culture of working hard, right? Digging in, the roads are paved in gold in America. Like when he came here, the people in Italy really believed that. And his response was, well, they are. Like the opportunity is here. You just have to be willing to dig and work, right? Nothing's going to be handed to you. So I think I got that from him. And then my mom, her family also from Italy. So I'm a full breed, right? I always tease I'm a full breed Italian. And I tell my kids they're full breed too, even though my husband is British. So we kind of giggle with that. But when, my mom, we grew up in a very typical Italian household, Julie. So my grandma and grandpa and aunts lived upstairs and we lived downstairs in a 2-family house. So there was so much love and support. And, if we had a project at school, like my aunts went and bought the poster board and we bought the crayons and like they were our number one supporters. So I feel like I had this blessed life. Now, don't get me wrong. My dad worked hard. My mom was a stay-at-home mom with 4 kids. So we didn't have a ton of money, but we never knew that. You know what I mean? So I think that I come from this really a strong foundation of family. And I think that's just how I've lived my life and how I'm teaching my kids, but it's also how I do business. When my clients and if I'm coaching or training or whatever role I play for my clients, they're my family. They're my friends. We go out to dinner. It's very hard for me to separate that feeling of family, because if you work with me or you and I feel that way, like, oh my God, we're across the pond, right? We're across the water from each other. And we were like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're in my orbit. Like you're part of my people now. I think that I just live and breathe from that perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think that's the way to go. And it sounds like you really were instilled with that sense of, work hard and have fun. Yeah.
100%.
Did you have any idea when you were a young adult, the kind of direction you wanted to go in?
No, that's such a great question. No one's ever actually asked me that. So no, but here's the thing. I remember when I was in college, we had some project, right? And I was probably a junior in college. I was maybe 20 years old. And I read a book by Zig Ziglar. And I don't know if anybody doesn't know who he is, check him out. He has since passed, but every book he ever wrote, I read because I thought, this makes so much sense to me. And the essence of who he was this brilliant businessman, but he led with his heart. And I thought, this makes so much sense to me. That's who I want to be in business. And then fast forward, growing up, eventually my dad, he was an engineer by trade. He eventually opened his own business. So I think naturally when my kids were little, they were 1 and 4. I was 39 when I started my my business 20 years ago. And I remember people have asked me, like, did you know you were going to be an entrepreneur, a business owner? Were you scared? It never dawned on me. No, I never set out to say I'm going to be a business owner. Never dawned on me. Number one, the circumstances presented themselves, right? I had a zone of genius and the market needed it. And my network, because you know me, Julie, I network a lot. I love meeting and talking with people. So because I had the network, I was able to step into opening a business. But someone once asked me, was I afraid? And I wasn't, but I think because I saw my dad make a beautiful living, right? And he was home to see me play softball or field hockey or whatever was going on. My dad was in the audience, right? Or in the stands watching. And I wanted that for my kids. So when my kids were little, you know, I took that leap of faith and I never looked back. And that was 20 years ago. So I don't think I knew this. I think the steps presented themselves. And then it was like, I think that's the direction I want to go in. Never certain though. Never certain with that.
I absolutely love that expression, zone of genius. Not heard that. Brilliant. Thanks. So we know that you got a degree in economics and finance, and you went on to do an MBA. What was it like in that arena? Did you enjoy being in that environment?
So that another great question, Julie. It's so funny because undergraduate, and I know the universities are different across the world, but in the United States, I found and I went to Rutgers, which is a very well-renowned university, but I felt like it was textbook. And it was, obviously, you know, you learned supply, demand, you know, macroeconomics, finance 101, 102. So it was very textbook. When I stepped into my MBA and I had graduated and I worked. And then I went to school at night for my MBA so I could pay for it and you know, put money away to buy a home and all those things that we do, you know, as adults, supposedly as adults. But my MBA, I came alive because what we were learning, I was working. And so we talk about, well, how can you apply this in your job right now? And that blew my mind because I felt, this is so tangible, learning and applying. So that was a big revelation for me. I loved getting my MBA. I'm very competitive. So, you know, I made myself nuts to get the A's, but it was because I was thriving from all of this new knowledge. And I think that was another pivotal point for me, that learning could be more than just learning and then regurgitating the information on a test. That learning should be about application. And so now in my business, when I teach and train clients, right, how to sell better, that's what I do. But for me, it's like, okay, you understand this. Now let's apply it right here, right now in the workshop, because, you know, when you go into real life, you want to be rocking it, and you want to make those mistakes and try things out here in a safe environment. So let's keep applying. So that was a pivotal moment for me with the MBA, of learning and applying. Loved it. Made sense to me, I guess.
Brilliant. So what then led you to sales? Because, you know, knowing about business and doing sales are not quite the same thing, are they?
No, it's funny because when I graduated from college and I went and I got the job, right, I worked because my degree was in finance. So I got a job in a credit company. It was actually Chrysler Credit. So we financed the automobiles, right? And we did all the paperwork and the financing on the back end. So it made sense to me. I think in numbers because, you know, the finance background. So that made sense. And then it was funny because again, I'm dating myself, everybody. So just listen, I'm old here, right? It was in the 80s, mid 80s, and leasing. Now everybody leases a car. Well, back then it was a new concept. The funny thing though, back then, not true today, leasing was wonderful for business owners because you can write the whole payment off as part of the business expense. Where if you purchased it like a retail option, you couldn't. You could write off like mileage and stuff like that. So I reached out to all of these car dealerships and said, you know, Julie Mann, she just sent in Julie Mann Enterprises. Why didn't you put her in a lease? And they're like, yeah, we don't really know about the leases because no one taught them. So I'm like, dude, okay, you're hurting this person. Let me teach you how to do the calculation. She'll actually end up saving money and she can write the whole thing. They were like, what? So all of a sudden, I started teaching everybody in these dealerships. And we probably had like 50 dealerships that gave us financing deals. So everybody knew me. They called, they would request me, we need to talk to Connie. So I was teaching all these dealers, and a sales position came up to be a liaison with the dealerships to try to generate more business. So I went into my boss, Julie, wait for the punchline. I went into my boss and I said, look at what I've done. We had 0 lease deals. We have 1,000 a week now. I blew up the department. I was in demand. I was just working all the time because I couldn't even go to the bathroom. Everybody wanted me. So I said, I think I'd be really good at the sales thing. I think I'm doing sales. Didn't know I was doing sales, right? I thought I'm teaching and educating and making it a win for the dealer, a win for the client, and a win for us on the financing end, that this client will now send you other business people. You're growing, I'm growing, right? So it was a win-win-win. He looked at me and he said, I can't do that. I can't promote you. I said, oh, didn't I not pay my dues? Do I not know enough? And he said to me, you're a girl. Because you're a woman, they will never, it's a man's industry. They will never let me promote you. And that was the first time. Now, having a dad come from Italy, he had 3 daughters and a son. He told us growing up, you want to be the president of the United States, be the president, but you be the best. It was always, you do it right. So here I was like, I'm a girl, you can't promote me. What? I had never heard of such ridiculousness. So that's when I thought, I know what I'm good at. I got my resume together. I got it. I went for licenses at night. I was still going for my MBA too. Imagine that. So because I wasn't learning enough, I went and I got my insurance licenses, my securities license, my Series 7. And I did that, quit the job, had money in the bank, did that. And then I got a job selling insurance. Didn't love the insurance, but it was a great education on what sales was. Because for me, sales is teaching, which I still believe, 38 years later. But that was the story of how I got into sales, because I was a girl.
That is such an amazing story, isn't it?
Crazy.
It's hard to believe. I mean, obviously, I'm a lot older than you, so I do know that was the case. But for some people watching, it's like, what? What are you saying? Anyhow, so I imagine that the company you left actually must have really suffered as a result of you going.
You know what? I never looked back. I don't know.
Okay.
Wasn't my problem. It wasn't my problem. It's funny though, because the regional, the person who said to me, you're a woman, he was actually a really good guy. He had a daughter who at the time was probably about 14. And he said to me, I really think you need to leave. And I said, yes, I know I need to leave. And so he was cool, because he said, if you need to use me as a reference, just do it. I'm not going to fire you, in other words, is what he was saying, but go and figure out what you need to do. And I'll support you any way I can for my role as, a boss, quote unquote. So he was a good guy. He didn't believe, but that was the culture, remember? And that's reality. So that was my reality. So you figure it out. I picked up my big girl pants and I thought, I'm going to go play somewhere else.
Right. What is the biggest obstacle you've ever had to overcome in your life, and how did you do it?
Wow, that's a big one. For me, that's actually a really good question, Julie. So for me, I think I love being a mom. I knew I needed to be a working mom because I just couldn't do the whole mom thing. And I'm not criticizing, people who are the stay-at-home moms. I give you a lot of credit, actually. But finding, because I'm good at work, I'm good at what I do, if that makes sense. I'm good at being a mom too. My kids are amazing. But that turning it off, I find really, really, really hard. And I do still struggle with that, that it's not balance, it's really an integration, but that I still struggle with to this day, because I'm good at work, but you have to unplug too. And for me, it's like, well, let me just do one more thing. And my husband will come down at times and say, enough, you need to stop now. And he knows when I need him to pull the plug, and I trust him. So we have a very good balance from that perspective as well. But he knows when I need to walk away. I don't. That's dangerous,
I hear people every day say to me, oh, I hate sales. And I think, well, surely we're selling ourselves all the time, aren't we? When we have an idea, we want to put an idea across to someone, to a partner, to a group of people, or if we're walking in a room, we're selling ourselves, surely. What do you have to say to people who say that to you?
I agree 100%. And you don't like sales. And here's why, Julie. And I really understand that. And, having my own business, I think about that a lot because I teach sales. So I need to understand the emotional, what's the word? The emotional response of why sales is that icky, sleazy, manipulative, pushy in my face, which is so not me, which is really when people find out like I'm really good at sales, they go, really? And I go, it's about building relationships and teaching people. Like to me, that's really what the definition of sales is. But people feel it's icky. And I want you to think about this, everybody listening. Wolf of Wall Street, Madoff, the movie, De Niro did a fabulous job, but the whole Madoff scandal, right? We are taught that salespeople are manipulative and they're going to hurt you so they can make money. So what happens as humans, we think, oh, protect, go, warning, Will Robinson, right? I have to protect myself. So literally through the years, we've built these 5 layers of resistance. And when I do my webinars and I do my training and I do speaking events, I talk about the 3 little pigs, right? Everybody knows the 3 little pigs. And that finally, when the wolf gets to the 3 little pigs behind the brick home, they're safe. Well, because sales has been taught to us that it's this pushy in your face, I'm going to make the sale so I can make money, but I'm going to take your last dime, right? We now have moved on. The wolf has chiseled through the brick house, and humans, we've created multiple layers beyond that. So I say the 5 layers, we now have a fortress with a moat around us. And the way I approach sales and the way I teach it is you have to be you. Yes, you have to build relationships. There's a way to do that so that when you get to, and I call it the objectionless buyer who's always there, you have to break down the walls one by one so they trust you and all these other layers that are there, that they literally drop the drawbridge and say, hey, come on in for dinner. While all the other salespeople are going, how did she do that? Because I did it the right way. And it was about the customer. It was never about me. And my job is to educate the customer to understand what they need, why they need it, and how easily it can be accomplished, right? That's my job, to teach and educate, not to push and say, my way is the only way. That's ridiculous. No one is cookie cutter. No situation is cookie cutter. Every client I work with, everybody I coach, everybody I teach, it's different. We're human. We're not the same. So right there, stop trying to duplicate what someone else does. Find your secret sauce. You're the secret sauce. I'm not. Let's figure that out. And then you get in front of your objectionless buyer every time.
I love that. I think that's such an important point. And I think that more and more people need to listen to that way of doing it, because there obviously are still people who are, doing it without integrity.
Correct. And that's like, to me, if I don't help someone, Julie, like I didn't do my job. And do we have time? I could share a really quick story when I first started insurance. Do we have time?
I'd love to.
So when I first started, right, I had a finance degree, economics degree. I was going for an MBA in finance, and I was in front of this young couple and they had little ones. I didn't have kids. I was in my 20s. And so the kids were climbing and drawing pictures, and I always loved kids, right? So I'm me again. I'm in their home. I'm selling. I was being me. So he was the sole provider, Julie, and he needed life insurance because if God forbid something happened, the wife and kids, where would they be? But as I asked questions. So as I started looking at their budget and all of these things, I said to them, you can't afford the insurance. And he's like, but I need the insurance. And I said, I understand that. But 2 months from now, you're going to pay those 2 months worth of the bill. And then it's going to lapse because you're not going to be able to put food on the table. Like, what are we doing? Take a step back. Let's breathe. And he was young. So I said, the chances of you dying in the next week, let's be real about this. I think it's more important that we get you on a budget, figure out where we can save money to pay for the insurance. Yes, it's a priority. You just can't do it right now. So I coached him, right? Again, now, by the way, guys, I didn't make a dime off this. This was all on my time, but I taught them, we massaged the budget and all of these things. And 6 months, 8 months later, he bought the insurance and it didn't lapse. So he had the coverage his family needed. Here's the best part of the story. They loved me because I gave of me. I gave my knowledge to them and I taught them so that he could protect his family and also feed them, right? To me, that's kind of an important piece of the puzzle. He started referring all his friends. So as I was meeting all these new people, initially I'd help them with their budget and all of these things. They were blue collar workers, right? And here I have this degree. I have all this knowledge. Well, what good's the knowledge if I'm not helping anybody, right? And so he became my best referrer, and I ended up making a lot of money off him. And I don't feel bad that I made money off of them. I felt really good because they were saving not only for the life insurance, but now they were saving for their future, putting more money into retirement, maybe setting up a college plan because as they got raises, I said, don't spend the money. Put it into savings for the kids, or put it into savings for a vacation, right? Live off of what you were living off of. Somebody had to teach them that, right? So that's why I truly believe. Now, doesn't that story make sense? I was selling them. I did it the right way.
So glad you told us that story, Connie. Do you think that part of the reason why people don't like sales is because they can't get their head around the word no?
Okay, so that's a great question. Remember, I was talking about the objectionless buyer and the 5 layers. If you learn how to really break down those 5 layers and really understand the client, really understand, it's never about me, right? It's about the client. 3 things should happen when you go to ask for the business. 1, the client says, where have you been my whole life? How fast can we get this going? I wish I met you a year ago, right? So they're on board, 190%. Second thing that happens is you say to them, you have a lot going on, like I did with the gentleman with the insurance. You're not ready for this. You're not ready for me. You need to get your marketing. You need to do this. You need to do that. Then your head will be in the game. Then that would be the next piece of the puzzle. You're still over here. You're not ready for this. It's not going to work. And that's not fair to you, but it's not fair to me either. You're not ready for me. Let's stay in touch. I'm going to give you little things to try, right? Cost them nothing to do this. And we stay in touch. And maybe 3 months, 6 months later, they end up working with you. That's number 2. Or number 3, I say to the client, again, I fully understand what they're trying to do. And I say, I'm not the person you need. You need Julie Mann. She's the one. Stay on the phone with me or stay on Zoom. I'm going to email you both right now and do an introduction. You guys need to meet. So now notice I didn't say I got to know, because if they're not the right client, I'm going to hand them off to who is. If they're not ready for me right now, I'm letting them know that and why and when the timing will be right. So they're still in my pipeline. I'm doing the right thing for them. Or they're going to buy from me right now. I don't get no's. And listen, I don't get objections, not because I'm so great at, I handle objections. For me, I don't get objections because I hit the objections along the path, and I'll know what their fears are of why they don't want to do something. And then that's how I know they're not ready for me. They have so much other stuff going on. How could their head get their head wrapped around this and do the application I need them to do? And the other thing, why I do that also, I never, ever, because my reputation is stellar in the marketplace. I've been in business 20 years. I don't ever want Julie or somebody going out and saying, yeah, Connie's training or Connie's, it's garbage. What? No, you have to be ready for me, and I hold you accountable. You're going to do what you need to do. You are going to be successful in spite of yourself. And I tease when I say that, but it's not because of me. It's because people are selling things prematurely, or they're not selling to the right client where they should be handing off to a colleague. And that's when they get a bad rap in the marketplace. So all of these things protect you, but also you're doing the right thing. Did that make sense?
Oh, it's pure gold. It really is. Thank you. What skills and qualities would you say that someone needs to be successful at sales?
Number 1, you need to be in your zone of genius. So an example would be, I'm Italian and I'm broke, and my husband says, because I don't like to cook. I can cook. It's just another chore to me, right? So I don't love to cook. So if I all of a sudden said, wow, restaurants, they make a lot of money. I'm going to open a restaurant. I'm a good businesswoman. I don't know the first thing about running a kitchen. I put high heel shoes in my oven. Like, really? So no way would I open like a pizzeria or a restaurant. It would be an epic fail. So know what your zone of genius is, or what your skill set is. And so now you're an expert. So that would be the first thing. You should know what you're doing. Second thing is you really have to be passionate and believe in what you're doing. It's nice to be good at something, but if you constantly are second guessing yourself and saying to the client, "Oh, I'm not sure if this is going to work," you're not going to make sales, right? Because you're not passionate and you don't believe it. And then the other one is and I have a masterclass, it's a 7-step process where we break down to get to the objectionless buyer, all of that stuff, right? So there's skills to get there, but really, if you have your zone of genius, your expertise, you're passionate and believe 100% in what you're doing, and you're willing to do the right thing and come from a place of integrity and make it all about the client and take the time to build that relationship with them. It's not like you meet people the first time, especially if you're a coach and your mastermind is $10,000 a year. I'm not going to meet you the first time and go, "Yeah, sign me up." I don't know you. I don't trust you yet. Like, get to know me first and see if I'm even a fit for your mastermind. And then we can talk, right? So you have to give lead time to build that relationship. Trust. That's the other thing. It's an integrity. You said that was the beautiful word before, integrity. So I believe anybody can sell, but you have to be an expert and you have to be passionate and you have to be willing to learn what those steps are to build a relationship. But it's got to be about the client. It's never about you. We don't matter. I'm not really the solution. The people have the solution within them. I just have to have them tap into that. Same thing with you.
Yeah, the attention needs to be out there with that person.
Correct. That's correct.
So I know you've already given us lots of great tips, but if there's someone right now watching and they're really struggling to sell their brand they're representing or a product, is there one little tip that you can give them?
Yeah, and can I give a free thing I offer? Would that be okay? If they go to, it's called, my website is whitmanassociates.com/CSA. And I guess you could put that in the show notes, Julie, right? So we'll put the show notes, but the CSA is the communication style assessment. And I really want you to hear this, everybody. Okay. When we well, first of all, I don't know about you, but I communicate with humans, not aliens. So we're communicating with humans. Everybody has a wiring, if you will, in their brain, and I call them behavioral styles, right? We behave in a certain way. There's really 5 key categories that we function in. So think about this. 20% of the time, Julie, I'm talking to people just like me, and it's easy peasy, right? We go back and forth. We fire fast, right? We talk about 50,000 feet up in the air. That's how I'm wired. Well, 80% of the time, people are looking at me like a deer in headlights saying, "Can she talk any faster? What did she just say?" So if I'm selling to someone who's, picture someone like an engineer or a computer science person, they're so methodical in their thinking, right? Point A to point B to point C. My mind, I could go to point A to D to C to B, and I know what I'm saying. But if I'm talking to an engineer or a computer programmer, they're going to look at me like, this chick is out of her mind and I'll never sell, right? So 8 out of 10 people I'm talking to are not like me. So the communication style assessment, it will tell you, it's free. It will tell you what your superpowers are. And I also share a report about your blind spots. So my blind spots is detail. I miss detail. I don't cross the T's and dot the I's because I'm moving too fast. Well, if I'm talking to someone who crosses their T's, again, it's about the client. It's not about me. I have to shift my whole energy, Julie, to become communicative for them to understand me. Otherwise, I'm never, ever going to make a sale 8 out of 10 times, right? That's why most people go, my close ratio is about 20%. You should be more like 70, 80%. So 7 out of 10 people you meet, you'll sell, right? Either today or at some point down the road. So the CSA will give you your superpowers and blind spots. And then now you have a tool that you can see. It's about application. You could start identifying and playing with. So if I'm talking to an engineer or computer science, literally, Julie, I slow my breathing. It's called mirroring. It's a technique, but I slow my breathing. Right? They don't want to always make eye contact with me. So I won't make as great of contact as I would with someone like me. I love eye contact because like our eyes are talking to each other, not with a computer programmer engineer. So I have to be a little less intense, right? But you have to know that. So take the CSA, understand who you are, understand who you're not, and then learn how to shift to the client in front of you. So they think, this person gets me. And that will build that like no trust factor. You'll build trust super, super fast just with that one skill.
Brilliant. How important would you say it is, Connie, to keep a sense of perspective in business and also a sense of humor?
You got to laugh. And that's another thing. Even when I meet like the engineer or the computer programmer, I think they get a kick out of me because I'll say like, I'll be very serious because they need serious. But then there'll be an opportunity where I throw a little bit of humor in. And oftentimes when that opposite style, that really like 360-degree opposite of me or 180-degree different opposite of me, at the end, they'll go, I get a kick out of you too. And I go, oh, good, I'm glad, you know? So I make it easy for them to get to know who I am, the essence of me, but I give them what they need from the pace of speaking, the detail, the complexity of the situation. I'm good at breaking it down. And if you're in your zone of genius, no matter who you're talking to, you can break it down for them. But I'm a goofball. And I think that even the opposite styles for me, they get a kick out of it. So that's another thing. Just be you, because when you try to be somebody else, it's a disaster. It's like a train wreck. You're watching a train wreck happen live, right?
Oh, absolutely. You'll only ever become poor second, won't you, if you're trying to be someone else. So it's obvious, Connie, that you're absolutely passionate and you love what you do. And, obviously your husband has to pull the plug sometimes and tell you, come on, it's time to stop. So when you do stop, what do you do? What do you do when you're not working?
Go to the beach. For me, it's always the beach, right? Obviously family too. You know, my mom, I'm blessed. I'm knocking on wood right now. My mom is going to be 92 in May and of 2021. And my dad is 90. So, I love spending time with them. My dad is he's just brilliant, off the charts, brilliant at 90, God bless him. And I have siblings and this is kind of cool, Julie, my sibling spouses were all married like 30 plus years. So that's kind of cool. No divorce, which is fascinating with the statistics out in the world, but we love hanging out with them. We have the most fun. So when we're down the shore and everybody's down at our shore house, man, oh man, it's nirvana for me. We laugh and you just forget about everything, So that's probably family and beach. Yeah.
Noisy, isn't it? When you all get together.
I remember the first time my husband met my family. Remember, he's British. He's actually Canadian, but his mom and dad are from England. And the first time, they're scattered all over the world. My whole family lives in one town here in New Jersey, right? And we were going down the stairs to a party at my aunt's house. And there's probably about 60 people there. It was a birthday or something. I don't know. And he stops and I go, what's the matter? He goes, how many people are down there? I'm like, I think only 50 today. And he's like, well, I go, but you don't have to remember everybody's name. Just smile and say, oh, it's nice to meet you. Now he always says when our friends say, oh, you're doing something with your family again, my husband will often say, I know, it's like belonging to a club. I don't have to pay any dues and the food is extraordinary.
That's so brilliant. So, you're a radio show host. You're a busy woman. Why? What's it up?
Well, I have a high energy. And I think if I didn't do all the things I love, that number one, I don't believe in regrets of turning back and say, shoulda, woulda, coulda. Like I want to do it. I'm going to go and do it. And the podcasting, I love the space. I love the response and the reviews I get that people are like, she's a goofball, but she's brilliant at the same time. So when I get that feedback, I think, yeah, I'm in my zone of genius. People get me, right? They're getting truly who I am. And then the podcast, like we're doing now, how much fun is it to share these great tips with people that they could literally finish listening to the show, Julie, and go and apply something that or go take the CSA or apply a tip that I gave immediately today. Like, wow, that impact it fills my heart. It just fills my heart.
Amazing. Of all the things that you've done in your life, Connie, of which there have been many, what are you most proud of?
My kids. Yeah, I'm going to get emotional. What a emotional. Yeah, because they're okay. They're not kids, right? They're 21 and 24 now. Like, where did that lifetime go, right? And they're brilliant. They're amazing. They're kind. They're funny. They're compassionate. They worry about other people. They're productive. Like, isn't that what a mom wants? And they're happy, and they're happy kids. We laugh a lot in my house, like, and they mock me, and I'm okay with that, right? I'm the mom. I should be mocked, but they're just amazing. They're amazing humans. And so I think when my husband and I sometimes look at them, like they'll say something and I'll look at him, I'm like, that was freaking cute. And I'm like, we did good. Like we did good, right? Building them up and teaching them, and they're respectful and they're hardworking and they're good students when they were in school, and they're just good people. Wow. My husband and I had contributed to that. That's kind of cool. That's kind of a cool legacy.
Amazing. One last question. When you are no longer on this planet, how would you like to be remembered?
Wow. I hope people think, God, she inspired me. God, she made me take that leap of faith. Wow. She helped me find the confidence to do, and whatever that is. I hope I'm inspiring for people.
I think there's no doubt, actually.
Aw, thanks.
So for anybody watching, please check out the links below and find out more about Connie and get in touch. But finally, all there is for me to say, Connie, is thank you. Thank you so much.
I love it. I love you, Julie. You're stuck with me.
Lucky me.